What's going on, friend? Welcome to this episode of Under the Covers. And we're going to go over an amazing book, which has been transformative for me since I got my hands on it. I actually got it before it was released. My business partner, Mick Billy, and I were at a mastermind in Mexico with Russell Brunson for his inner circle. And we had a phenomenal session with one of the authors, Benjamin Hardy, and he broke down in this like 70-minute session. I just feel like he kind of shortcutted us a decade of like mental development through this entrepreneurial journey. And so we're going to be diving into 10x is easier than 2x. It's a read by Benjamin Hardy that I think everybody should go through. I mean, this is one of those books that in my opinion should be required reading. And the reason for that is he helps break down how the conventional way we normally get success is inefficient, right? And so the concept of it is 10x is easier than 2x. The reason for that is 2x is essentially linear growth. This is what most people do. It's incremental gains, right? Nothing necessarily wrong with it, but the difference between going 10x in life and 2x is very different, right? To go 2x, you can retain about 80% of what you're doing now, and you just have to tweak, change 20% to get to, eventually get to 2x, right? And so the difference is when you're going for 10x, only 20% can stay the same. 80%'s got to go. You're reinventing yourself. You're reinventing your business as you grow. And so what it requires you to do is to really hone in on the 20% you already do very, very well right now, and to continue to free up space for you to stay in your zone of genius, for you to continue to develop the things that you are most a specialist at. And so it was just a really good read. He actually breaks down, I would say that the story in the beginning is probably, if you read nothing else, it's a phenomenal read. He talks about the David, right? And this is Michelangelo's essentially masterpiece. He talks about what he had to do to be able to understand human form to the extent that he did. And so one of the less known facts about Michelangelo is that he felt, he had kind of gone through iterations and taken on projects. And if he would have quit before the David, he would have been considered a success by all artistic measures. However, when he got commissioned the David statue, he didn't feel like he was necessarily ready for that. And so what he did to evolve his skill set to be the person who could create the David was he started to take the bodies of deceased people and he would dissect them so he could understand every little nuance of the human form. Now, this is radical, this is extreme. However, it's a testament to the commitment he had to understand and master his craft. And so, people, after the David was created, people asked him, how did you create the David? Like, how did you do this? He said, I just removed anything that wasn't the David, right? And so it's a good example of how this applies to people and to business. And so, the lesson, the big takeaway that I got from this book is you really need to hone in on what you do well. And all too often we get distracted by things. We get, we're focusing on the things that'll give us incremental small gains, but we're neglecting the thing that could take us leaps into the future. This book actually took me on a journey. So as it says here, we got Dr. Benjamin Hardy, got to meet him. He's a gangster. He's a really brilliant dude, but it actually took me on a journey to getting into Dan Sullivan's world, who's the co-author, which has led me into a program called Strategic Coach, which has been kind of cool for me to evolve my relationship with my executive assistant and to free up mental bandwidth for the stuff that really matters. In my business, I'm a visionary, right? My job is to create, bring ideas to the table, and to collaborate with my team to work on execution of that vision, right? And so as the visionary, it's really important for me to be freed up. If I'm tied up in the tactical stuff too long, if I'm actually doing the technical work for too long, while I'm qualified to do it, it takes me out of my visionary role. It's like, it's hard to keep your head in the clouds and your feet on the ground at the same time. And so just understanding the framework of 10x is easier than 2x, I started to reprioritize so much. I actually, right after I read this book, I started interviewing for an executive assistant, which that in itself was a fun process. And I found an amazing executive assistant through it. If you're looking for it, the Strategic Coach program also kind of helps how to collaborate with your EA, if you haven't done that before, because this is a first for me. But it's also been really good because she's been able to take a lot of the stuff on my plate that's more tactical and technical, and she's very great at it. And that just opened up so much space in my life. I've just to give you context as to the impact this has made, for the greater part of the last decade, I've been pretty much behind a desk like I am right now, either filming content, leading consulting and coaching calls, building marketing assets, stuff like that. But recently I had enough time freed up in my schedule due to what I was able to delegate and collaborate with my executive assistant on. I'm now, and it's pretty exciting, I'm now doing 3 personal training sessions a week, 4 Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu sessions a week, and 2 assisted stretching sessions per week. And it's a lot, since I've been pretty, complacent for the last decade. But I can tell you this has freed up space for me to reconnect to myself physically and get back to a state where I'm healthy and happy about how I look and how I feel. And so that's been really fun. Plus, jiu-jitsu and fighting is something that I'm passionate about. So, this has freed me up for the things that really matter to me, and just evolving as a person. So it's a lot about staying in your zone of genius, right? If you're a visionary, this book should be required reading. But even if you're not, there's concepts in here that they break down that are just absolutely phenomenal. Like I have, if you're looking to simplify your life, if you're looking to prioritize and focus on the things that matter most, that will drive the results the furthest and the fastest, I would strongly recommend 10x is easier than 2x. And if you're going to go down that vein, and I'll probably do an episode of Under the Covers on these, they also wrote a book called Who Not How, which is about how to, essentially leverage people in your organization to be able to go further in life. There's also The Gap and the Gain, which they co-authored as well. Phenomenal read, goes very well with 10x is easier than 2x, and it helps you live in a more positive and healthy mind state. So those are some books, but from these guys, they're honestly brilliant. Dan Sullivan has a goal to write at least 1 book per quarter. These guys are just beasts. They're maniacs, right? They are spending the majority of their time on the few things that they do really well, and that will, have a massive impact on revenue and growth and expansion, and just the people that follow them, right? 10x is easier than 2x is a testament to what's in 10x is easier than 2x, right? This is one of the things that they created through living this way, right? All of their books are this way. And so anyways, I strongly recommend it. The audiobook's great. The actual hardcover is great too. There's a ton of stuff. It's a book that I would strongly recommend you read and block off some time to make room for this, because if you do, it's gonna open your brain up to things that you haven't considered yet, and it's gonna help you have a much more simplified approach to business, where you just focus on the things that really matter, right? Because there's very few things that matter. Most things that we think are important in business or in life, years go by and we find out that, well, it might have helped, but if we did nothing about it, it probably wouldn't have been much different in the end. But there's a few things that you can't say that about, right? I remember back to a few times in my life where we went 10x instead of 2x. And there were just fundamental evolutions in me and us as entrepreneurs. And so the goal is, how can I continue to apply that and continue to reinvent and continue to reinvest and to continue to go 10x? If you're looking for that, if you're looking for a breakthrough moment, if you're looking for 10x growth, and obviously 10x is kind of an arbitrary concept, but if you're looking for 5x growth, 7x growth, 20x growth, this book is what I would consider required reading. It's Preston approved. I would check out 10x is easier than 2x if I was you. Thanks for joining me in this episode of Under the Covers. I'm your host, Preston Schmidli, and I'll see you in the next episode.